The Mark. Part 3. The word translated as faith, pistis, in the New Testament means more than belief. It means another kind of thinking. Let us take an example from the Gospels. In Matthew 16, 5 through 12, AV, it is said, "And when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Yeshua said unto them, Take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, It is because we have taken no bread. Which when Yeshua perceived, he said unto them, O ye little of faith, why reason ye among yourselves? Because ye have brought no bread. How is it that ye do not understand that I spake it not to you concerning bread, that ye should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees? Then understood they how he bade them beware not of the leaven of bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. In this incident it is clear that the disciples took something said by Messiah in its sensual meaning, that is, according to the literal sense of the words. Messiah told them that this was a sign that they had little faith. It's not a question of belief. They may have believed greatly in the seen Messiah, yet they had little faith. What does this mean? It means that faith is something more than belief. In this case, faith means understanding on a level other than literal understanding. Sensual understanding cannot make contact with the meanings contained in Messiah's teaching. He was not speaking of literal leaven, but of psychological leaven. Messiah was not speaking sensually, but psychologically. His words had no sensual meaning, but only psychological meaning. The leaven spoken of was not literal leaven, nor was bread literal bread, but falsity infecting good. Sadducees and Pharisees are always within us. The Sadducees can be compared with the scientists of today. They did not believe in any life after death. That is their leaven of falsity. The Pharisees can be compared with people who are in appearances, who, so to speak, think the important thing is to go to church on Sunday to be seen of men. Matthew 6:5. That is their leaven. They were stigmatized as hypocrites without inner belief. Now Messiah here connects the disciples' lack of psychological understanding and consequent inability to see what was meant with littleness of faith. In other words, Messiah connects the capacity of psychological understanding with the possession of faith, and sensual understanding with littleness of faith, or even elsewhere with blindness, with complete absence of faith and inner death. Faith is necessary to open a part of the mind not opened by the senses. Let us now turn to some other passages concerning faith and its high meanings. Many may have believed in Messiah as a visible miracle worker. They believed through what they saw, through evidence of the senses. But in Hebrews 11:1, faith is called a basis for belief in what is not seen. But faith is a basis for things hoped for, a conviction of things unseen. It's not only a conviction of things unseen, but it is a basis or plane on which another world of relations and values can be reached, one that is above the seen world and the cause of it. So the unknown writer of Hebrews continues in these words, It is faith that lets us understand how the worlds were fashioned by Elohim's word, how it was that from things unseen, all that we see took their origin. Hebrews 11:3. The writer goes on to describe how through the possession of faith certain things have been done. Now, although it may be true that nowhere in the Scriptures is faith exactly defined, but chiefly its effects, certain things are said about it as above. to show it has to do with an inner perception of scale. If faith causes a man to perceive in his mind that a world invisible to sense lies above the seen world and is the cause of it, then he perceives things in scale, that is, in terms of higher and lower levels. When the centurion said that he was a man who was under authority, who was under those above him in authority, while he himself had those who were under him in rank, and added that it must be the same with Messiah, he was speaking in terms of scale. He meant that Messiah only had to give orders, and his sick servant would be healed. On hearing this, Messiah exclaimed that never before had he met anyone who understood better what faith meant. It is related that a centurion sent messengers to Messiah asking him to heal his servant, and Yeshua went with them. And when he was now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Master, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou shouldst come under my roof. Wherefore neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee, but say the word, and my servant shall be healed. For I also am a man set under authority, having under myself soldiers. And I say to this one, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. And when Yeshua heard these things, he marveled at him, and turned and said to the multitude that followed him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And they that were sent, returning to the house, found the servant whole. Luke 7:6 and following. To return to Hebrews, the writer goes on to say, it is impossible to please Elohim without faith, 11:6. That is, it is impossible without the basis or foundation of faith, which makes it possible for a man to think beyond the evidence of his senses and realize the existence of invisible scale and understand psychological meaning. To realize scale means to realize that there are different levels of meaning. Literal meaning is one thing, psychological or spiritual meaning is another thing, although the words used are the same. For example, we saw that the word yeast, used in the incident quoted, indicated two levels of meaning. The disciples took it on the lower level and were told it was because their faith was little. Their thinking was sensual. They had difficulty in thinking in a new way on another level. And their psychological thinking was so weak just because they were based on sense and not on faith. Thus, sense and faith describe two ways of thinking, not opposites, not antagonistic, but on different levels. For without the perception of scale and levels, things are made to be opposite when they are not so, and man's mind is split into either or, which leads to endless confusions and mental wrangles and miseries. The writer goes on to say, nobody reaches Elohim's presence until he has learned to believe that Elohim exists and that he rewards those that try to find him. 11:6. It is apparent that if scale is behind all things, if order is scale, and if to set in order is to set in scale, then what is higher and what is lower must exist. To everything there must be an above and a below. A man who cannot perceive scale, visible and invisible, as did the centurion by means of his psychological understanding due to his great faith, will be shut to the intuitions that only faith opens out of every mind that hitherto has been asleep in the senses and the limited world revealed by them. And this ends part 3. The mark.